Hello guys, so today we are actually gonna go and solve for we're gonna be solving quadratics and we're gonna be solving by square rooting. Now this is gonna be a pretty easy assignment. Now if you saw the previous video, which is the first part of this, you kinda gotta understand a little more what's going on here. If you haven't seen the first video, go ahead and go watch it first and then you come over here and watch this one later. Now the way that we're gonna be solving this, we're gonna be doing two steps. Step number one, we're gonna go ahead and square root both sides. So we're gonna start right at the get-go with that. Step number two is solve for x. Okay, so we're going to be working a couple of this ones out, and then I'm going to let you guys work on the last problems down here. Okay, so you're going to be working on 6 problems. Once you're done with all of that, just turn it in or turn it in class, and then you're all set. So let's go ahead and start with the very first problem. Now we got parentheses x minus 3 squared equals 16. Now, just like I mentioned, we're going to go ahead and square root both sides. So I'm going to color coordinate specifically just so you guys can see exactly what I'm doing. So this is square rooting. So I'm going to square root this side, and I'm going to square root this side. Now, it is very important that you never forget that over here on the 16, there's going to be a plus and minus in the front. So I'm going to put it right there just so I don't forget. After that, we just start simplifying things. Now, the reason why we square root is because we're trying to get rid of that 2 right there. So what that means is that the square root and that 2, the power of 2, are both going to cancel out, which is just going to go ahead and leave the x minus 3 with us. And we're actually going to go ahead and bring that down. So this one should be x minus 3 is equal to, and over here, don't forget we have plus and minus, and we're going to have a number. Now, this is how I told the people in class to do it. If you can simplify the square root, go ahead and simplify. If you cannot, just leave it as is. Okay, so in this case, we can actually simplify the square root of 16, which is 4. So, I'm just going to put 4. So, this equals to 4. And don't forget, it's going to be plus minus, okay? So there we go. We did step number 1, which says we're going to square root both sides. Now it's going to say to what? Solve for x. So whenever you work this type of problem, usually there's 2 methods that you can do. And usually I like to differentiate according to the type of problem I have. Now, if I have a problem like so, I have a 4, I have a 3, I have x, and none of them either have an imaginary or a square root. They don't have those. Then I'm just going to go ahead and do 2 equations. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to write x minus 3 equals. And now, first, I'm going to put the plus. So it's going to be positive 4. And then I'm going to rewrite the equation. So it's going to be x minus 3 is equal to. Now I'm going to be using this one right here, which is the negative. It's negative 4. All right, we already got everything that we need. We just need to solve for x. So in both cases, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move the 3 over. So I'm going to do the first one. So this one right here on the bottom. So plus 3 plus 3. Now, 4 plus 3 is 7. So I know one of my answers is going to be x is equal to 7. And on the other side, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. Plus 3 plus 3. Now, negative 4 plus 3 is, they subtract because they're different sides. And I keep the sign of the bigger one. So it's negative 1. And I'm going to box them so you guys can see. That is my answer for the very first problem. Not very difficult, right? Pretty easy. Now let's go ahead and move to another one. We're going to go ahead and follow the same steps. So I'm going to go ahead and start with square rooting both sides. So I'm going to square root this side, and I'm going to square root 3. I'm going to put plus and minus over here on the square root, and just so I don't forget. So we cancel out the 2 and the square root. So it's going to be leaving p minus 4. P minus 4 is equal to, and don't forget, can I simplify the square root of 3? Absolutely not. It's a prime number, so we're going to leave it as is. I don't know why a lot of people were doing this. They were just putting the 3. I don't understand why. I never said that you guys should do that. But I saw it a lot. So don't do that. You have to write the square root of 3. All right, because we weren't able to simplify, so we keep the square root right here. And this is the difference between the first problem. Okay, you see, I don't have any square roots. On the second problem, I have a square root right here. So what I'm going to do instead of actually go ahead and separate into two different equations, I'm just going to go ahead and solve it as is. So what do I have to move to the right in order to leave the p alone? Well, just a 4. So we're going to be adding 4 on both sides. I'm going to add both 4 on both sides. So I'm just going to have p is equal to 4 plus or minus square root of 3. And I'm just going to leave it like that. Now, technically, I could separate them and even give the decimal answer if I wanted to, but I'm not. I'm just going to leave it like that. It looks nice and I can understand what I have. So I have two answers, right? One of my answers would be 4 plus square root of 3. The other answer would be 4 minus square root of 3. And I understand that because I know what this guy, I don't know what I'm doing here. That looks cool. Yeah, we understand. I don't know. We understand what this is, okay? So bottom line, that's it. So yeah, that's my answer for that one. Let's go ahead and move to another one. Now, I like this one, and I put it here for a reason. We have now, you can probably see it, we have a negative, and this is what's going to happen. So we square root both sides, just like always. Okay, don't forget plus and minus. And over here, we're going to have those two cancel out. And I'm just going to have x plus 4 over here. X plus 4 is going to equal, and don't forget, plus and minus. But now, you cannot have a negative inside of a square root. So we're going to turn this bad boy into a imaginary number. So the way that we're going to do that is pretty easy. We're going to go ahead. We're going to put an I in the front. And we're going to change the sign. Square root of 36. Now, what is the square root of 36? Well, 6. So technically, I'm going to have 6i. That's what's going to go right here in this spot. So let's go ahead and write it. So it's going to be 6i. Now, like I mentioned before, I have an imaginary number, so I'm not going to separate my equations in this one. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of solve for x as is. So in here, in order to solve for x, I'm going to have to move the 4. So I'm going to do minus 4. So I'm going to have x is equal to negative 4 plus or minus square root of plus or minus 6i. And that is my answer. That is it. Not very difficult. That's all that we need to do here. That is my answer for that one. So you can kind of follow. That is just kind of solving for x. Literally, as long as you know how to solve for x, you should be able to do most of these problems. Now let's go ahead and do the very last problem. The very last problem is going to be a little slightly different due to the fact that before I even, this is an extra step actually. Before I even square root both sides, I'm going to go ahead and divide by 4 because I want to leave this entire thing alone. Okay, I want to leave that alone. So let's go ahead and do this. So how is this going to look? Pretty easy. So we're going to divide by 4 on both sides. So that's going to give me a new problem. So it's going to be x minus 3 squared, right? And then it's going to be 9 over 4. Yeah, because those 4 become 1, so that kind of basically disappears. Now we're going to do and follow the steps that we've been following. So I'm going to square root this whole thing, and I'm going to square root this whole thing. Now, I'm going to go ahead and erase that square root. Whenever you have a fraction, usually what I like to do, and if possible, I like to do square root on top and on the bottom. Because sometimes you can simplify either or you can even simplify both of them. So let's go ahead and start doing that. So that one disappears, so the only thing that's going to be left over here is x minus 3. X minus 3, don't forget, plus and minus. I forgot to write it over there, but yes. Then plus and minus. And here is where I think about it. Now, the square root of 9 is 3, and the square root of 4 is 2. So it's going to be 3 over 2. There we go. We have it almost already done. Now, what I'm going to do here, I'm actually going to go ahead and try and do my two equations here just so you can see what I have. So I have all of this. So I'm going to write one equation here. And another equation going this way. First equation is going to be x minus 3 is equal to positive 3 over 2. And then over here, I'm going to have x minus 3 equals negative 3 over 2. Now, here it's important that I want you guys to understand whenever you, well, this is just regular mathematics. Whenever you're adding fractions, make sure you have the same denominator. So what I'm going to do before I do anything, I'm going to change my 3 and I'm going to change the denominator of it. So I'm going to rewrite it as negative. Now, in order to have the same denominator, I need to multiply this 3 by 2. So it's going to be 2 over, or 6 over 2 equals 3 over 2. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with the other one, but let's work this one out. Now we're going to solve for x. So plus 6 over 2. So plus 6 over 2. And that's going to give me x is equal to 9 over 2 on the first one. All right, let's go ahead and do the second one. So same thing. This one turns into x minus 6 over 2 equals negative 3 over 2. We do plus 6 over 2 plus 6 over 2. Now that's the difference. So then I'm going to go ahead and subtract them. They have different signs. So my answer for this one's actually x is equal to 3 over 2, which basically stayed the same. So there we go. That is my answer for this problem. And that's the process that I did for all 4 of them. So what I want you guys to do at this point, go ahead and look at the 6 problems. Go ahead and work it on a different sheet of paper and turn it in. And that is it.